Okay. Cool, cool. So what do you guys want to talk about? So a question that was asked previously was what should web developers know about? That's a good question too, but let me answer this one first. The question was asked, what should web developers know about cybersecurity? So I suggest two things. First of all, understand a secure development lifecycle. And then second of all, understand what security teams are doing when they tear your stuff apart. There can be a lot of animosity between security teams and development teams. And you've got to understand that penetration testers, assessors, web app vulnerability tests, etc., they're all there to make in the end goal, to make your organization more secure, to make your code more secure. So understand that you should be collaborating with the penetration testers and the red teamers and the assessors who are coming in and tearing your code apart and perhaps writing vulnerability findings about it when they do assessments. So in the end, yeah, that can cause a lot of animosity. It can cause a lot of hurt feelings, but the real end goal there is to make the organization more secure, and it's really easy to lose sight of that. So those would be my suggestions for a web developer. Okay, would you recommend a 4-year degree for InfoSec? I would not. I've written about this on my blog before. It's tiffany.net. It's linked on my Twitter bio. I would recommend a 4-year degree if that's something that you want to do and you can afford and you think will benefit your learning style personally. Absolutely. I've got 3 degrees and I am a big fan of college, and I think that it can be wonderful to get a well-rounded academic experience and background in your life. Do I recommend specifically cybersecurity or InfoSec degrees? I do not, because there are so many out there that are really, really bad. They focus on tools and techniques that are short-lived, and by the time that they're being taught in the class, they're already obsolete. I think that a well-rounded background in computer science or network engineering or computer engineering or even something unrelated to cybersecurity can be a lot more beneficial in the long run. Now, if you really want to go out and go for that bachelor's and then master's and doctorate in cybersecurity and do graduate level work in it, absolutely, that's awesome. There's a million ways into cybersecurity. I won't gatekeep, but just be forewarned that I see a lot of problems with especially InfoSec bachelor's and master's programs. So that's specific degrees that are specific to cybersecurity. That's been my experience hiring people. There's a lot of problems out there. There's a lot of FUD out there, and there's a lot of people trying to sell things they're not qualified to provide. I hope that answers the question, Daniel. Yeah, okay, cool. What else? What else do you guys want to talk about? I am yours for the next 45 minutes, 50 minutes. About to start in DFIR. Do you have any recommendations for report writing and taking notes during an incident? Absolutely, I have 1 million recommendations, but I've only got like 45 minutes. Understand how to write timelines well. The human brain, as Terry Pratchett says, one of my favorite authors, runs on narrativian. We think about things as stories. And if you want to convey things to other teams, if you want to convey things to your own team, if you want to figure out what you did a year from now, making a good story, a good narrative is really, really important. And what helps you build a good narrative in cybersecurity is timelining. So the key to taking notes during incidents is very specific timelining with a standardized time zone, timestamp format, et cetera, in an easy to read and sort document, or read Excel spreadsheet or Google spreadsheet, usually, and just having that running list of everything that's happened in the incident, no matter how minor you think it is. That can include very technical details like the hard drive modifications, MFT changes, anything from log files, event files, network IDS fires. They all have timestamps, right? And they're usually pretty granular. They go down to like milliseconds, nanoseconds, etc. Computer time. And therefore, you should be able to create this really comprehensive timeline of everything that happened. Highlight the meaningful events that help you understand your narrative, and then create a story from that. And that's where you start doing good note-taking for incident response. It's that timeline is really central to everything. And just on top of that, taking good notes in a central place that are not so verbose that you lose track of what you were doing, but verbose enough that in a year, you and your colleagues can figure out what happened. So that's really important. All right, let's see. What am I drinking? Vodka and soda. Because I was in a hurry to start this and YouTube wasn't cooperating. I'm currently in a graduate program and agree that academia lags behind a ton. It's not just lagging, it's almost what I call malpractice. It's kind of me to say lagging, it's kind of me to say that TTPs are behind in academic programs, but some programs have no business teaching cybersecurity. They just don't. They're not teaching the right things. They don't have instructors who understand what's currently going on. And the big problem is that they convey what they're teaching wrong. It's fine to say this is the TTPs that were used 5 years ago in your class. Malware reversing classes from 5-10 years ago can still be incredibly useful to somebody. The problem is when you let your students out of the program and you say, well, you know everything you need to know now. There's no continuous learning needed. You can go get a job now. And that's just not the case. And the way I tell that during interviews is I ask people about current events. And if they can't tell me about like malware that was created in the last, and at a high level, I'm not trying to whiteboard people to death in interviews, but if they can't tell me about some malware that occurred and existed in the last 5 to 10 years, they're still telling me about SQL Slammer and Configure and stuff, we've got a big problem. Their school let them out of there. It's not their fault in most cases, it's the school's fault. Their school let them out of their degree program and said, you know everything you need to know, go get a job, and didn't admit to them that the knowledge that they got was out of date. So in the end, I blame the curriculum developers and the teachers and the schools. What's something you're proud of but haven't had an opportunity? I talk about goofy stuff on the internet all the time. What's something that I'm proud of and I haven't had a chance to talk about? Let's see. Well, I have 2 third-degree black belts in martial arts, in Taekwondo and Tang Sudo, and I'm also a certified teacher. I teach karate to middle schoolers, and I really enjoy doing that, except I have to do it over Zoom right now, and it's freaking insane. You know, for the kids, for me, for everything, for the technology. So, yeah, I guess that's something I'm pretty proud of. Another thing is I enlisted in 2001 in the Air Force, and my first day out of basic training was 9/11. So that was, I guess, an accomplishment. It's just like my crazy bad luck. My life has been not bizarre. I don't know. That's fun facts for party games or something. Oh, hi and bye, Elnara. Hey. Jacqueline, how do you deal with sexism in this field? It's changed a lot. I started out in IT over 20 years ago in the mid-90s. At the time, it was, you had to make concessions. I'll say concessions. At the time, you had to decide whether you wanted to do things like have a family or be highly successful in technology. You had to decide whether to bite your tongue or do something about things that were wrong. And, you know, doing something about things that were wrong at the time could mean just like ending your career forever, your professional career forever. Things have gotten a lot better in the last 25 years. There's a lot more ability to speak up when things are wrong. There's a lot more women in general and non-binary people in general in technology. So there's a lot more representation. There's a lot more mentors. Things have improved. They have a long way to go. Now the focus has to change, especially to people of color and people internationally who don't have the opportunities that we have. It's our responsibility now to bring them along and give them the opportunities as well. knowing what battles to fight, I'd say, is still a really important skill, though, as any minority in anything. Knowing when it's time to fight a battle because it's the right thing to do, and when there isn't a purpose and it'll cost you a lot more than you'll get out of it. That's my sad, nihilistic answer to that, I guess. Okay, let's see, what else do we have? Anything 2008 in the OT space. What's a sweet spot for visibility considering the cost of implementation? Ooh. It depends incredibly on the environment that you're in and the vertical and the technologies you're dealing with. That's a loaded question. So yeah, are you asking about oil and gas? Are you asking about electric? Are you asking about manufacturing? Yeah, boy, that's rough. Degrees or cert, which carries more weight? Should I continue with a bachelor's in cybersecurity? There are 1 million routes into cybersecurity through formal processes like degrees and certs, through non-formal processes like moving laterally or moving up through help desk, Knox, whatever. I'm not going to tell you that any particular way is wrong. There are a lot of valid ways to get that people have gotten into cybersecurity over the years. And where the value is placed on degrees or certs is going to depend a lot on the organization and the vertical you're trying to get into. So if you're trying to get into the government contracting, in a lot of cases, you will have to have a degree, and you will also have to have specific certifications. That's just the requirements for those jobs. They're very cut and dried. They're very specific, and there's no negotiation on them. In other places, just your ability to talk about talks that you've given or, research projects that you've worked on will be much more valuable than any degree or cert. So have an idea of where you want to go, what niche you want to get into, what type of place you want to work, because that's going to impact the answer to that question. And then, also be yourself, and what kind of learner you are. Are you kinesthetic or audio or visual learner? How do you learn best? What environment do you learn best in? Take the route that's going to teach you about cybersecurity. I wouldn't drop out of a degree program if you're already in it and you've gotten a lot done in your degree program. Don't drop out of it now. Just take it for what it is and get what you can out of it. Adam, any advice to convincing users to use password managers? Boy, I'm glad to hear somebody in an organization saying that. A lot of organizations don't allow them. And I think that's very unfortunate. If you are allowing password managers, good education around them is really important. And then also enabling them to be easy to use. If you're in an environment where you're allowing people to use password managers, are they centrally managed? Are they being deployed in your workstation builds? Are people being trained to use them? Are they comfortable to use? Do people feel safe and comfortable using them in all of their day-to-day work? So surveys are important to find out how people operate, shadowing people, seeing how password managers are going to fit into their daily work and their daily lives. And then also educating them well on how to use them and making sure it's all about ease of use in security. We can blame users for everything, but we shouldn't be. We should be making it easy for them to do their jobs securely. And when we make things hard for them, too hard, then they start bypassing our controls and doing things insecurely. That's when we start losing security. There's a curve here. You can only build up so much obtrusive security before people start taking shortcuts and avoiding it. So yeah, you've got to be cognizant of that and make it easy to use. I hope that's kind of what you were looking for there. Let's see what else is going. I'm currently building out my skill set, building infrastructure in the service center. Okay, I want to pivot eventually into a SOC. How do I ask to pivot into the SOC? Hopefully that you're at a business that has some kind of formalized review process where you can talk to a manager about how you're performing and your goals. If you don't, there's problems in your organization. If you have some kind of annual review process, you should definitely be bringing up your goals in terms of moving into cybersecurity during those. And if you can't do that, you've got other organizational or managerial problems. Yeah, so Yeah, and also finding a mentor in your organization is going to be really useful there. Finding somebody who's already in cybersecurity or manages cybersecurity teams, and making it clear where you want to go. You know, mentorship, people treat mentorship as like this magical thing in cybersecurity. Like you're magically, your mentor comes from on high and they land in your mailbox and all of a sudden all your problems are gone and the clouds are parting in the sky and the angels are singing. What a mentor is just somebody you want to emulate and who you think can give you some good advice. And that's how you build a mentor relationship, a mentor-mentee relationship is you find somebody who you want to emulate and who can get you where you want to go, and you build a good relationship with them and you have honest conversations with them. And so I suggest that there for you. Try to find a mentor in that role, maybe a manager or somebody who's a senior person in that SOC. Yeah, it's tough, especially right now during COVID because we don't have a lot of in-person meetups, which are the place to find mentors and network. But yeah, see if you can find somebody inside your organization who you can shadow a little bit and just build a relationship if that's possible. It's real rough. But yeah, use that formal review process too if you've got one. Those are the things that immediately come to mind to me. Malort or more Malort. I mailed out all my Malort to TC and Caitlin. I said Casey. I'm like combining their names like Brangelina now. I mailed all my Malort to, and I actually have another one on the way to them, Caitlin and TC. All right. Let's see. I don't know if you have gone over a similar question, but my school has a brand new digital forensics degree. Yes, I already went over that question. I'm very, very, very wary about security-specific undergraduate and master's programs. You need to vet them very carefully. I can name on one hand the decent cybersecurity degree programs out there, especially in the master's space. There's a lot of bad programs out there, and it's mostly because they're selling you something that they can't sell. Yeah, they're going to teach you things that are useful, and you can learn a lot of stuff in college, even if it has nothing to do with your degree program. You learn how to write, you learn how to present, you learn business skills, you learn finance. Those are all useful skills that you can learn in a college, among other places. But I am very, 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 very wary about cybersecurity degree programs right now. Vet them well and understand what they're going to give you and what they're not going to give you. Make sure they're not selling you FUD about being able to walk out the door from their program and immediately walk into a cybersecurity job without anything else. They are a supplement. They are giving you the tools to learn. They are giving you skills for life, but they are not making you magically an analyst necessarily. So yeah, I wish I could give you a better rundown on how to vet these programs, but that's my quick and dirty rundown on that. Somebody's asking me about pancake syrup, and you've got to understand, I broke a toaster cooking a bagel. The reason my name is Hacks for Pancakes is that I expect to be paid in food for doing volunteer work because I'm hungry otherwise and I can't cook. I just want food, guys. Anyway, oh boy, this is scrolling so fast now. Oh my God, it's scrolling so fast now. Any interesting forensics research area you recommend for PhD level research? I'm going to be biased there and say that the area of industrial control system forensic is like totally unexplored and nobody's there right now except for like me and another person, and we're busy with incident response. So we desperately need people in the space of industrial control system forensics, especially low-level device forensics. And that also branches out beyond just industrial systems. It branches out into automotive. There's been a lot of work done in automotive because law enforcement is really interested, but there's a lot more to do, especially with things like Teslas coming out that are totally different. Also things like IoT forensics. Again, those are huge for law enforcement, but there's not a lot of research and not a lot of money going into it. I mean, crime labs are way overbooked and overtaxed. So yeah, any of those spaces, any of those up and coming technologies that have a really big place in our lives, there's not a lot of forensics on the lower level devices in them yet. We need like smart TV forensics. We need forensics on the PLCs from 1995 that are running manufacturing facilities. We need all of those things. So getting off of PCs, mobile devices have got a lot of work done. PCs have a lot of work done in the forensic space. There's like no tools out there for low-level devices, pretty much, like unless they're like vendor-specific tools. There's a ton to be done there, and these low-level devices are becoming more and more and more influential in our daily lives. So that's just my biased suggestion there. Aaron, I work in a community college where InfoSec is only considered after an incident in a neighboring district. Yeah, I mean, people sometimes don't think about fires until the firefighters are there and their house is burning down. The best way to approach organizations that are not inclined to properly fund organizations is through an understanding of finance and business. If you have not taken programs in those areas, it's a good bet. If I could recommend 3 programs to every InfoSec person, it would be take a management class, take a business class, and take a finance class. Because if you can quantify risk and talk financial numbers to an organization, it's going to get through to them a lot better than talking technology. That's not the language they speak. You have to speak the right language to the right people. So if you're having trouble conveying things to your senior leadership in terms of like needing new technologies or needing more security personnel or needing investment in cybersecurity, that's the best approach there, is understand the language that they're speaking, understand their mission from a business perspective and a finance perspective, and then go from there. You should pick your own PhD topic. Yeah, you'll hate. I agree with that though. You will hate working on a PhD research that you don't like for years. I would not want that to happen to you. So I tried to give you something to pique your interest, but yeah, pick something that's actually interesting to you. You're welcome, Adam. What advice would you give to somebody who's teaching cybersecurity? To whom? What's your audience? Because I do lectures at universities from everybody from IT students, computer science students, to like public administration students who have like one IT class in their entire program. So my answer to that is going to vary a lot depending on your audience, because you're trying to convey a message to those people. You have them for a limited point in time, and you have to convey a concise and comprehensive message to them about cybersecurity. And the message that we need to convey to like end users is different than the message we need to convey to programmers. Is the messages is different from the message that we're teaching to like potential InfoSec people. So again, that's going to be, it depends. I'm saying it depends a lot tonight, but yeah, that's my answer to that. Is it depends on who you're teaching. What's the mission there? What are you trying to convey to them? All right, let's see what else. What is the hardest part of switching to an analyst to a manager? I am still an individual contributor. I manage people in the Air Force. I've been a team lead. I've done both. Understanding that they're different skill sets entirely. There's like this misconception in cybersecurity that everybody's going to take this path of going from junior analyst to senior analyst to manager. And that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life, because managing is a totally different skill set than anything technical. You have to have the right personality type. You have to have the right academic or experiential knowledge on how to manage people, how team dynamics work, how people relate to one another, how to do project planning, how to do project management. You have to have all those skills to be a good manager. So we have this terrible, terrible thing that happens in technical companies, especially startups, where we push people from tech jobs, from individual contributor jobs to managers, and they don't have those skill sets already, and they just crash and burn. Like they're either micromanaging, or they don't understand that there's like team dynamic problems on their team, and they let people infight and like somebody leaves. Like those things happen because people don't have good management skills, and they shouldn't have had to become managers. So understand that you don't have to become a manager, and understand that there are a lot of skills that are totally separate from anything you do in cybersecurity, except for maybe social engineering that you need as a manager. So understand that you need to get that experience from somewhere, either through work experience or through courses. You've got to understand how to manage people and manage projects and manage money. Yeah, sorry about combining Caitlin and TC's names. Hopefully they never see this. What was my AFSC? I started as a back shop avionics technician when that was still a job in the Air Force, pulling component level avionics devices apart and trying to figure out what was broken in them. Things like radar, GPS, stuff like that. They don't have jobs like that anymore. Things are just go back to the manufacturer under warranty. But yeah, I was soldering stuff, reading lots of circuit diagrams. And then later on, I went into 2E2, computer network cryptographic computing stuff, generic computing stuff. I've always been enlisted. Isn't using the USD. You don't use the post office for mailing alcohol. No, you use a shipping company that can validate IDs. My God. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do that. Mailing Malort is probably a federal crime, whether you do it through the post office or not, but don't mail booze through the post office. All right. The last few years have opened my eyes how normal people use technology. Normal people, oh boy, we're abnormal people. How can we make technical people more aware of this so things become easier for users? You exist to serve the users. We exist to serve the users. That's a hard thing for a lot of us to grasp, and it's a lot easier actually in industrial technology. Okay, so in industrial systems, we have something called like crown jewel analysis or consequence analysis. We should be doing this in IT too, but a lot of people just don't do it. They just do security for the sake of doing security, to pass audits, whatever. Really, what we should all be doing as cybersecurity people is starting at the top in our company, understanding what our mission as an organization is, and then understanding what a bad day looks like. What's the worst day ever for your company, given their mission, given how they operate? Is it like for industrial systems, it's easy. It's like the facility blowing up and a bunch of people dying, or the pharmaceutical they're making becoming contaminating and killing everybody, or making everybody sick, or contaminating the environment, things like that. Or as we see in Texas, like power going down to a ton of people. That's the worst day. Within a tolerance of risk and acceptance of a certain level of outages and things. So once you understand that, you can model down into systems and understand how cybersecurity could impact those things. That's where you should be starting. You serve the users. You serve the mission of your organization. Your job is to make sure that the mission can complete its organizational goals without those consequences as much as possible, to reduce the risk of those bad things happening that they care about. So we need to understand that as cybersecurity people. We need to understand our organization's needs. And their needs typically aren't cybersecurity. That's not what they exist to do unless we work for a cybersecurity company. And in that case, the goal is to sell stuff. So still not doing cybersecurity. Yeah, so that's how you relate to people in business. That's how you relate to users. It's understanding what they need, what they care about, and what a bad day looks like for them, and putting things in those contexts. Speaking the same language again. Okay, if I'm already a competent software engineer, would that, I assume that's what you mean by that acronym, would that reduce the difficulties of breaking into security or subfields? Yeah, so it really, there's so many niches of cybersecurity. They all require different skills, different personalities, different needs, wants, experience, etc. Where does programming really come in handy? Well, in a lot of spaces. But software engineering, especially in computer engineering, well, reverse engineering malware is a great space to be in because that's just reading people's code all day. Their messy, horrible code that's meant to be messy. So reverse engineering malware or analyzing malware is a fantastic space to be if you've got a lot of programming experience, especially assembly level coding experience. You could also go into like the secure development space and build more secure products. That's a really important place to be. Let's see what else. Web app security, again, penetration testing. It takes a programmer to know how programmers kludge things and mess things up while they're building things. So you could be great at that. Yeah, so those are just some suggestions. But yeah, programming experience is great everywhere in cybersecurity. What do you wish you could do but don't have time for? I'd love to be a SANS instructor. I think that'd be really fun. I love teaching. I teach the Dragos 5-day class, and I wrote the curriculum for some of it too. I really enjoy that. I love teaching. I'm starting to teach another class next week. I would love to be a SANS instructor, but there's like this pipeline you got to do to get there. You've got to, teach community classes. You've got to get vetted. You've got to get approved. It's like a 1.5 year long process of teaching, like at your community organizations. And I get why. I think that's totally valid, but I just don't have time. I'd love to do that though. I love teaching cybersecurity. I'd love to teach like GCFE or GCFA or maybe grid or something. Sure. Yeah, I'm really behind. I'm sorry. Oh my God. Have you found any crossover between your martial arts training and security strategies? Man, I'm sorry, Dan. Like, I hate these analogies where we compare like other hobbies to InfoSec. Like, I think it's totally valid, and I think you can learn. See, that's why I hate those analogies, because I think any hobby can teach you something about cybersecurity, because cybersecurity is like about life and about humans and about human nature. So I think that any hobby can teach you a lot about offensive or defensive cybersecurity. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, there's parallels in martial arts, but there's parallels in everything. And I just I guess I get kind of tired of people using these like military and martial arts analogies. That's usually what it is. Like, they're anything. I did talk once on Terry Pratchett and how Terry Pratchett relates to InfoSec, just because I was annoyed at like seeing the Art of War all the time. Like, I was like, I can pull all these same examples out of Terry Pratchett Discworld. And so Moonin and I did a talk on that, and I wore a witch hat the whole time because I just can't take it seriously when people do talks like that. But yeah, I mean, of course there's parallels, but again, there's parallels between every hobby and everything, every field, and InfoSec, because InfoSec is just a microcosm of human nature and how people operate and how they think. I don't have any experience with ICS. Are there labs or resources? There's not a lot. So free resources. INL and Idaho National Labs in the US has a bunch of courses for free on industrial cybersecurity on their website. They're just videos. So those are a start. If you're working for the government, DHS has some stuff that you can take for free. For paid courses, of course, SANS, Dragos, and INL all have paid courses that are, I mean, I can't talk about my own course. The SANS course and the INL courses are really good. I think my class is good. But yeah, there's some paid training out there that has labs, but there's not a lot. It's really kind of an unexplored space. There's only a few companies that are really seriously working in low-level industrial control system cybersecurity. We are Mandy and some other companies, but yeah, it's not an easy, because it's a big space too. Industrial cybersecurity is as big as cybersecurity. There's that many niches, because electric sector cybersecurity is very, very, very different from manufacturing or pharmaceutical industrial cybersecurity. Even inside my company, we divide into niches. Like, people are usually specialists in a specific vertical, because the technologies are different. The way people operate are different. The terminology is different. The protocols are different. So yeah, there's some overlap, and the basics, like, learn Modbus, learn some basic industrial protocols, learn to look at them in Wireshark, because Wireshark has a great suite of industrial dissectors. Rob Lee has a site, a blog of like learning industrial cybersecurity resources. That's really, really good on his blog. So there's places to start, but it's a very unexplored space, and you really need to decide on what vertical you want to get into. Okay, thanks, Nato. Thanks for the syrup recommendations. Thanks, Johnny. What's the relationship between industry folks and academics when it comes to security? Having done a fair bit of academic work, the relationship doesn't seem so smooth. It's okay. I mean, there can be a little animosity between any academic and practitioner fields because the practitioners feel like the academics are out of touch, and that the academics feel like the practitioners aren't seeing the big picture, and they're both right. So that's usually where the animosity comes from. Is like I get super frustrated all the. So here's one of my pet peeves that's totally irrational. I get super annoyed at all the forensics college programs ending up with capstones on steganography. Because like we almost never run into steganography in practical attacks. Like it happens sometimes in malware and stuff, but like the kind of steganography they're exploring in those capstones is super unrealistic for 90% of attacks, but they always focus on it. I'm like, why is it always steganography? And I always have students coming up to me for mentorships like, look at the steganography project that I did. And I'm like, why? No more stego, no more stego. I mean, it's neat, but it's just like unrealistic. And I'm like, why can't you study like how to like secure Windows XP? Because that's what I need you to do. But yeah, I mean, that's where that comes from. Like you got to understand that they're coming from different valid perspectives about cybersecurity, either at a tactical level or a strategic level, and that's why that happens. I jumped right into IR and reverse engineering. Oh my god, that's intense. I feel like I have a lot of gaps in security basics, like systems administration. How can I learn those fundamentals while in a separate security role? A million ways. Again, it depends on the kind of learner you are. You could do CTFs. You could build things in your own labs. Like, you know, VMs are a lot cheaper than the old server racks we had to build for labs. Like, spin up some VMs, see how things work. Maybe do some job shadowing. Maybe take some formal classes or certifications if that's more your style. Yeah, you've got a lot of options. But those are important things to learn for sure. I agree. Oh my god, this window scrolls so fast. Julius, what's your favorite incident response experience? I mean, favorite for what is hard to say. Like, I don't want to like laud adversaries for doing terrible things, but I mean, when you see an adversary do like entirely devious tactic, like you have to stop for a minute and just appreciate it. I mean, you're going to stop them, and they're bad people, and they're doing bad things, and they're hurting your organization. Maybe they're even hurting people. But like sometimes when you see an adversary just do something really creative and novel, you're like, wow, I'm glad that I saw that, and now I know to look for it in the future. So I guess, I mean, incident response, things are always on fire. Things are always going wrong. So, I mean, I don't think I've got a favorite experience. I mean, I like things being on fire, but it's bad. I'm sure firefighters say something similar. Like, it's horrible that there are fires, but they feel the most alive when they're firefighting. So, yeah, that's a hard question to answer. Yeah, it depends. I use the words "it depends" a lot. I'm on the software development side and I've done e-commerce work. This is a question that I already answered for Linux Lava. Like Linux Lava, I love that. I'm on the software development side and I'm having trouble getting devs to care about security and promote testing for it. Again, that's your business and your finance skills. You need to present things in a way that they care about, their managers care about. So that's got to be risk management, numbers, hard numbers like financial numbers, examples from real life, things that are going to resonate with them. You need to speak their language. That's the answer to all those questions about interrelating with other organizations in business who are like, why the hell are we security? Why do we security? Ashley, why reserves? Because if you stay in the military for 10 years, you've got to stay in for 20 years so you get a pension. So that's a law, just so you know. That's a rule. If you pass 10 years in the military, you've got to stay for 20 years. Probably going to get on a massive eye roll, but can you touch on the whole cyber war thing? Oh boy. Okay, this is Tim's question. To me, the analogy makes sense. Nation states are constantly attacking each other. Take a drink. Okay. What we got to understand. Sorry, Ashley. Yeah, sorry. Bad news. Sorry to share that with you. That's senior NCO Leslie's advice there. You've got to stay in if you stay in for 10. But yeah, cyber war. Look, we got to understand as a industry the difference between espionage and sabotage and warfare. Yes, there are some blurry spaces in international warfare and relations in those spaces, but a lot of what we scream cyber war about is espionage and sabotage, and not necessarily what we would commonly term acts of war. So we use those terms much too loosely. We talk about things about like cyber Pearl Harbor. And Pearl Harbor, I've been there. I've seen some of the military buildings that are still standing that are riddled with bullet holes where people were massacred. And I find it very offensive, honestly, to use the term cyber Pearl Harbor for some kind of cyber attack where power goes down or something. Yeah, we got to understand it in the context of warfare and how we define warfare as modern militaries, the difference between those things, and we should be using the right terms, and we're not. That's about as much as I want to say about the whole cyber war thing, is like, understand when it's cyber espionage and when it's cyber war. Are you interested in guest lecturing? I love guest lecturing. I guest lecture at a few different universities. Yeah. Hit me up. How critical do you imagine the cybersecurity sector being in Martian colonies? Take a drink. Holy crap. I don't know. We don't know what that's going to look like. It sounds like it's going to be a big commercial enterprise, and those are always primed to things like espionage, sabotage, etc. Intercorporate stuff, intergovernment stuff. Like, we don't know what that's going to look like, so I can't answer that question. Crime is a part of human nature. So if you want to ask me if crime will have some bearing on wonderful scientific expeditions of humanity to Mars, absolutely. Criminals are always going to be trying to make money. They're always going to be trying to reach their goals. That's never going to change. It's been the case since the beginning of mankind, since we first had, some society. There's always going to be criminals, and they're always going to try to achieve their goals by the most efficient way that they see possible. Yes, Aaron points out very aptly that the SANS ICS Summit has a free CTF next month. I don't know if it's like really one to drop into if you've never seen an industrial protocol, so you might want to read up on that a little bit first. Again, like even Wireshark has industrial protocol dissectors. Read up on some of the resources on Rob Lee's site. Get your feet wet, understanding a little bit what industrial protocols are, what they do, how industrial devices work. I have some talks on my playlist of talks that I've given on the basics of industrial control systems. Other people have done the same. So there's resources out there to learn some fundamentals before you launch into something like a CTF. You guys are awesome. Using Stego to secure XP. Yes, do it. I mean, whatever. I want to see that capstone project. How did you start your security career? I've told this story before, but I grew up on a farm, and my options as I was growing up, a few years ago, my dad leased a computer to run, business operations for the farm. And my options were work on the farm or learn to program the computer. And if you take a look at me and son, it's not a thing. We don't get along real well. So what did I do? I learned to program the computer. At that time, like magazines and textbooks and stuff had like basic programs in them. So it was awesome. Like they tell you how to code things. There's no internet to look things up really in terms of how to write code and stuff, but you could figure it out from like Popular Electronics and like different magazines and stuff. So yeah, so I learned to program when I was like 8 or 9. And then because I could code and it was like a boom at the time, I got my first job as a programmer at like 15. And I got involved in the hacker community then. And I don't know, I've done a lot of stuff, but like I've been doing this for a long time. My story is not normal. People become InfoSec professionals who have never owned a computer until they were 22, and that's perfectly fine. I don't like telling my story because it's so stereotypical, but it's like so unrealistic. Like people aren't like me, not anymore, and that's okay. They're not expected to be, and I'm not necessarily saying my path was the best one either. Yar. What are some good starting points for learning about defending Linux servers? Any workshops or trainings? Ooh. You know, I learned that from books and running my own Linux boxes. Yeah, there's a lot of CTFs that delve into Linux. A lot of CTFs these days delve into Linux security, especially forensic CTFs lately. They've had a lot of like, you know, how was the password stolen off the Linux server, things like that. So a lot of CTFs delve into Linux. There's a lot of great books though on securing Linux systems. It's kind of something that in a lot of ways we know how to do really well at this point, but there's always new vulnerabilities and there's always issues with various distros. So it becomes an interesting thing to discuss, especially in the age of things like containers. And container security is its whole own field. I will point you to Ian Coldwater. They're the expert on that. Yeah, so there's a lot of elements that go into Linux security. There's a lot of stuff to delve into, but I mostly learned it from labs, VMs, books, and then just practical experience running things. Let's see. That's not a question, that's a statement. Sorry, Ashley. I'm really setting you up for success here. How do you keep your passion for security when at the end of the day, everything is about the numbers or money? It's not. Maybe I phrased things wrong. So first of all, find an organization where you care about their mission if you can. That might be later in your career once you are established enough to work where you want or have a selection of places that you could work at. Working for an organization where you agree with their mission at the end of the day is a great way to feel better about doing security for them. But in a lot of cases, especially as a junior person, you can't do that. You have to make a living. You have to continue in your career. So you do the best you can. Yeah, so your passion for security should come from things other than your job too. You know, it should come from an interest in the field, hopefully. It's not necessarily working 100 hours out of your job, but just being interested in what you're learning and what security means to organizations is important. So if you feel like you're helping people with money to get more money and not much else, it sounds like you don't really agree with the organization you work for's mission, and maybe like working for a nonprofit or working for maybe, I mean, this is a loaded thing, but a government agency or something that's doing something good, or, you know, some company that does something that you think is a good contribution to society. I'll make you feel better about that. That's a really hard one. Yeah, I mean, it's not always about money from like a nonprofit perspective. Sometimes it's about actually helping people, but you might get paid less in those jobs. But if that's really bothering you, that's something to look at. Have you noticed much burnout in the DFIR community? Yes, absolutely. Incident response is a high pressure job. It involves working at weird hours. It involves long hours during cases. That's not because companies are cruel or abusive or something. In a lot of cases, it's just the nature of the work. Things are on fire, and you have to triage them as quickly as possible. I mean, it's just the nature of doing any kind of incident response, whether it's medical or emergency, chemical, fire, whatever. Incident response means handling triage and containment of something catastrophic that's happening. So that's incident response, and people absolutely do burn out from the hours, from the stress of getting screamed at and dealing with these catastrophic scenarios. They burn out because they, can't take the odd schedules, the travel, a pin drop, things like that. So you really do have to have a certain personality type to get into DFIR. You have to be the kind of person who enjoys firefighting, or can find it acceptable to their lives, because you'll be on planes in the middle of the night going somewhere you weren't planning to go to, and then staying somewhere for 2 weeks without barely sleeping or eating because you are doing triage in an incident. And of course, your organization has a responsibility to make sure that you're healthy and you have enough downtime afterwards. But that could mean that you are like on for 2 weeks and then you have a week off or something. It's not a normal work schedule. It's not like a 9 to 5 necessarily. So just depends on your personality. But yeah, people burn out all the time in DFIR because they don't understand that, or they just can't take it anymore. Their life changes. So yeah. What was the worst reason you were given by a company that didn't want to address a vulnerability or an obvious flaw in their system? I've been threatened with legal action a number of times. It's important to have a lawyer on your speed dial when you're working in an incident response or working in vulnerability analysis or security research. For God's sake, you better have a lawyer. Because people will take out their bad news on you, and that's an unpleasant day to be told that you're going to be taken to court. Are there any InfoSec careers that let you be autonomous without being in a service role? Yeah, sure. I mean, exploit development, vulnerability research, malware analysis in a lot of cases. Yeah, reversing, any kind of reversing. Usually those end up being a little bit more insular roles depending on the organization. You just kind of, get the work from the incident response lead during an incident and you do the analysis. You're still going to have to produce reports and things and report to the team lead or your manager, but that's not necessarily customer facing. So autonomy, though, your second question was about autonomy. I don't recommend things like vulnerability research, bug bounty finding lightly, because those are hard work. There a lot more people fail at those things than succeed working on those independently. We hear about the people making tons of money doing things like bug bounty finding, but a lot of people, for every person we hear about who just made a boatload of money, there are like 1,000 more who are barely making it or have to give up and go back to like traditional InfoSec. So you really have to know what you're getting into, and that it's going to be really hard work. But that gives you a lot of autonomy. Yeah, so somebody's replying to that earlier question about how to make your work more rewarding. I work at a public university and I find it incredibly rewarding. That's awesome. Yeah, so like find a place whose mission agrees with your needs, wants, ethics, etc. What do you think the best entry to InfoSec is for someone who has 5 to 10 years of IT experience programming and sysadmin? Somebody asked that earlier. That's a great path. Yeah, bringing that experience into InfoSec is absolutely fantastic. Yeah. No, that's terrific. That's absolutely terrific. Yeah. So I don't think that there's any specific path there. There's a million valid paths. There's a million ways to get into the field from those spaces. And You could be academic, it could be moving laterally in your organization, it could be getting a certification. It's just really, again, depends on what works for you. So I'm going to check Twitter and see if there's any questions on there in case I missed some. No, it looks like we're doing okay on questions there. Let's see. Yeah, so we're about out of time. If anybody has any additional questions, I'll try to do another one of these in the near future. Otherwise, just ping me in the Twitter thread and I'll try to get the things as I can. But otherwise, I want to say thank you to all of you for joining. If you can, please like and subscribe my channel. It's the obligatory thing I have to say. I appreciate it if you do. Otherwise, I will see you next time, and thanks for coming to this live stream. I really appreciate all your great questions. Thanks. Bye-bye.